certified POC artist of color. I started playing music when I was 4. My parents got me piano lessons because they wanted to enrich my education, and then at least to my mother's dismay, I really loved it and pursued a career in it. I've always been really interested in reading and writing too. I'm a poet also, and so it was this non-verbal form of communication that I found to be extremely exciting in music, sort of like communicating on this emotional level. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And additionally, if we're looking at the Huali Hip Hop Project, I think a lot of what inspired me to start that was frustration in the types of roles that were being dictated to me by the music academia and the music industry as to what a woman should be, like what a female front woman should be, and what kind of music a woman should be presenting, and the topics that a woman should talk about. I wanted to create a project where I could embody this character that I felt like was neglected in these other contexts, and find something that was a little more hard-hitting, and I could talk about issues that maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable talking about in another context. Is actually my Chinese name. On my birth certificate, my English name appears, but from birth, I was also additionally given a Chinese name by my Chinese family. So I have always been called myself Wang Huali. I started using Huali as an artist name about 3 years ago.
These kids don't know it's work. I'm telling you now, I'm always on the grind. Times are good.
I feel like a lot of my challenges were actually had to do with me. Just trying to find a way to feel comfortable, to situate myself in that idiom of hip-hop and rap, and finding female artists that I looked up to, and sort of like finding my path through this. Because for the longest time, despite loving hip-hop and having done slam poetry and all of these things, I never felt comfortable being a rapper. Like my biggest struggles were just overcoming self-confidence issues. Like, no, actually, my voice does sound good on a track as a rapper, and it doesn't matter if it's not a male voice. Or, like, I am skillful at this, even though I, like, didn't grow up freestyling in ciphers. I think it's one of the most relevant, magical, sincere, exuberant forms of self-expression. And when I talk about hip-hop, I think a lot of people hear hip-hop and I think of the musical genre. Whereas I think rap artists are a part of hip-hop, but it's the whole thing. It's the b-boys and the girls, and it's the street art, and it's the DJs and the producers, and it's the meeting of all of these elements that really make the movement special. And in that regard, I think it's a huge form of relevant cultural expression because it's for the people. Especially now that it's been, we're 30 years into it. Even if you just look at the different genres of rap music, like you have your conscious rappers, you have your old school rappers, you have your people that are inspired by, like Ice Cube style NWA rap, and then you have your Zulu Nation peeps, and then there's trap music now, and then even within trap, there's like EDM trap, and there's traditional Southern trap, and then you've got your Chicago drill. It's grown to be this very vibrant thing that is still very based in geographical kind of movements, but it's very rich, and hip-hop is many things.
I'm just another addition to your list of suicide-ish girls that fire.
I would say that I'm very heavily influenced by 90s hip-hop, R&B, and neo-soul. I think that I walk a fine line between neo-soul and rap. It's like artists like Common and, Tribe Called Quest, Q-Tip, Erykah Badu, The Roots. Like, these were the people that I first especially when I started out, that was the direction I went in. And then there's a ton of contemporary people that I'm super influenced by at this point too. I mean, there's the whole TDE group from LA, Kendrick Lamar being sort of the star, Schoolboy Q. I love what the Odd Future kids are doing with this like new like mishmash of production sounds that are super contemporary sounding. The whole Pro Era crew in Bushwick is incredible. Joey Badass is like just a star. I mean, I'm trained in jazz, and I think anybody who studies black music, it's a disservice to them if they don't get into black history as a sideline to really understanding where this music comes from. So as a result of that, I mean, there are all sorts of things that I was exposed to that I would never have been otherwise. Just in terms of like something as simple as like the principles behind the civil rights movement, or like what is Afrocentrism, things like this that are really about a racial community that help me understand my place as a racialized person in Canada, which is something that growing up on the West Coast, where there's this implicit understanding that there's a lot of Asian people around, and this Canadian sort of feeling that like we're multicultural and we're not racist like they are in the States. I for a long time before really researching black music and black history, I didn't understand a lot of the times that I felt othered or marginalized. I didn't understand that maybe it was a racial thing because I was always taught in school that like we're not racist. So in that regard, I feel like getting involved in hip hop has really helped me feel comfortable in identifying the way I identify as a queer person, as a person of color, and just understanding the dynamics of our hierarchies in society and what it means to be marginalized. I would say my identity is expressed through my music. I think I'm someone who in the way that I write music, it's a very personal experience for me, and I mean, in my songs I talk a lot about relationships, and I mean, I'm obsessed with love. So this is a topic that comes up a lot, and the way that I navigate polyamory and problems that arise from that, and like different relationship scenarios are something that really fascinates me. So I can't help but write from a very personal place. And so I would say, yeah, I use my music as an avenue to express my identity in many ways. But additionally, I would say, having been exposed to music my whole life, and the types of music I've been exposed to, the things that make me feel that spark and fire and an interest in like listening to an artist over and over again and studying them and getting into what they do, certainly also has shaped my identity, which I then funnel back into my music. So it's a very cyclical thing. I think it always goes both ways. This is my feeling on, let's say, like our time as a whole. Everything is pluralistic. I'm one of these like university educated people that is into like everything's fluid, and like, you know, you don't have to identify any certain way because like maybe today you're this way, maybe today you're that way, and you know, it's like there's always a shift, there's always some sort of ebb and flow in any kind of community that you're participating in. When I think about even my identity as a hip hop artist, like I came out and I really wanted to talk about queer issues and like be this super sexy, wild, like out of this world character. And then eventually I got to a point where I was like, oh, but I really miss like writing sweet jazz songs that are like huge party tracks. So I think this concept exists in almost everything that we do, and I think it's important to acknowledge that often artists feel like they have to continue down a certain track, like you have a hit and then you try and remake that hit over and over and over again. Whereas I think it's much more. I hope that I'm right in saying that one can create more success for themselves as an artist, being comfortable exploring all of the facets of their creativity. And so if you start off as a trap artist and you have a really awesome trap track that hits the top of the charts, don't feel like you can't turn around and like sing an R&B ballad on your next song.
I see that way, you better offline. Course still joke that after the choke back.